All right, this time we're going to factor these trinomials again. And when I'm looking at it, I see that, again, we have a number other than 1 out front of our x squared term. But what's going to be a little bit different this time is you can see with the 6, the 21, and the 12, there's actually a number that goes into all of those, right? We can, like 3 goes into all of those. So the very first thing that you should always do when you're factoring is see, is there anything that you can factor out? So let's do that now. We can make our life a little easier. So we can factor out a 3, and that's it, right? There's nothing else. There's no x common to all of them. So we're going to factor out 3, start a bracket, and what I have left is 2x squared, and then 27 divided by 3 is 7, so negative 7x, and then minus 4. Okay, so that really is the new thing here, because now that we have that 3 factored out, it really just hangs out for the rest of it. It's just gonna sit there. So now we're gonna factor this inside the same way that we did before. So we're gonna look for numbers that multiply to 2 times negative 4. So I'm just gonna go over here and write m for multiply, and it's gonna be so 2 times negative 4, so negative 8. And then I'm looking for numbers that add to negative 7. So add to negative 7. Okay, so what numbers do that? So perhaps you're thinking, so numbers that multiply to 8, 4, and 2. Well, that's not going to do it, right? Okay. What about 8 and 1? Everyone always forgets about that one, right? So 8 times 1 is 8. And then 8 minus 1 is 7. So I'm in the right ballpark here, right? I just have to maybe tweak the signs here. So I need to multiply negative 8. So how can that happen? Well, one's got to be negative and one's got to be positive. So in this case, it's going to be negative 8 and then plus 1, right? Because negative 8 plus 1 would be negative 7. So yeah, you'd see if you had those backwards that you wouldn't get to negative 7, you get to positive 7. All right, so now we're going to write it again. So we've got 3. And then one thing I like to do is actually just make square brackets here, just so that I don't get confused with, like, the other brackets I'm going to have in a minute. It's fine. Like, even if you want to tack the 3 on at the end, that's fine too, but you might forget. So just, I like the square bracket method. So, okay. So now 3, and then I'm going to rewrite this. So this is going to be 2x squared. And then instead of the negative 7x, I'm going to use my numbers. So negative 8x plus 1x, and then minus 4. All right. Now I'm going to factor these guys by grouping. Again, just ignoring that 3 for a bit. So I'll just write it again, though. So 3. And then I'm going to factor out what's common to 2 and negative 8. So it's going to be 2. And then x as well. Start a bracket. And then what's left here would just be, so after I divide out 2x from this one, it's going to be just x. And then negative 8 divided by 2 was negative 4. And then the x's cancel there, right? So that's all we got. Now you can kind of see why I use the square bracket, right? It just kind of keeps it a little bit easier to look at. All right, now looking at the next one, there's actually nothing to factor out there, is there? There's nothing in common. But what we have to do when we're doing this method is you technically have to factor out like a 1. So I'm going to factor out 1. And the reason for that is just because I need to have like 2x plus something, right? So I'm going to factor out that 1, start a bracket, and then I've just got the exact same thing, don't I? I've got x minus 4. And then I'm going to do my close bracket there, right? Because it's 3 times that. All right, so we've done all the hard work. So now we've got 3. And then you've got, it's the one that shows up twice. So that's going to be x minus 4. And then what's left? 2x plus 1. All right, so now I wrote this a little funny, with the brackets and everything. I don't really need those, all right? Because like 3 multiplied by all of this is really just the same thing as 3 times x minus 4 and then 2x plus 1. It's all the same thing. It'd be still right if you left the brackets in there, right? 3 times all of it would be the same as just it written this way. If that doesn't make sense, it's kind of like this. If you had just numbers, it'd be like 3 times 2 times 4 is just the same thing as 3 times 2 times 4, right? Doesn't really matter on the brackets there. Okay, hopefully that made sense. All right, let's look at the next one. All right, so I'm just going to write it again. Actually, maybe I won't. I think we can skip a step here. So looking at this, I'm like, okay, so numbers that go into 27 and 3. Nope, that doesn't work, right? There's nothing that goes into all those things. But I do see that there is an x in each of these, which works out because I actually don't know how to factor a cubic yet, right? That's something that we do later on. But if we factor out just an x out of this whole thing, right? So I'm going to say, okay, greatest common factor is x. Start a bracket. And then really I'm just going to write this thing again, but just take the x out. So that's going to be 20. And now this is x squared, right? After I take that one out. Plus 7x. And then minus just 3. All right, so now I do know how to factor this, right? And then just like last time, that x is just gonna hang out for the rest of it. All right, so let's just write the x again. If you like, we can just do square brackets. Now, I want numbers that multiply to 20 times negative 3, so negative 60. And I need these numbers to add to 7. Okay, so you can play around with that. Like maybe that would be 20 and 3, right? Or 10 and 6. But in the end, what we need is 12 and 5. Right? Because 12 minus 5 gets me that 7, right? So I'm in the right ballpark, okay? So I need to multiply to a negative number. So one's got to be negative, one's going to be positive. So I need this to come out to positive 7. So I need the bigger one here, this 12 to be positive, and the 5 to be the negative one. All right, so now let's rewrite this. So now we've got 20x squared. Now the 7 gets rewritten with these two, so it's going to be plus 12x minus 5x, and then minus 3. Okay, now we will factor by grouping. So I've got x, and then what goes into 20 and 12? Well, 4 does. And then x squared and x does. So then start my bracket. 20 divided by the 4 I took out is 5. And we still have an x, right? X squared divided by that x. And then moving on to the next one, 12 divided by the 4 I took out is 3. And then the x is gone. And then now looking at the next one, this looks good, doesn't it, right? 5x and 3, 5x and 3, so it's a good sign. But the negatives don't work out. And the reason for that, we need to factor out a negative, right? There's nothing common between these two, but I'm going to factor out negative 1. So now I'm going to have minus 1, start my bracket, and then look at it again. So now we've got negative 5x divided by the negative 1, so that's just 5x. And then negative 3 divided by negative 1 is plus 3. That is exactly what we want to happen. All right, so now what we've got, if you like, is just x. And then the other one the other factor would be the one that shows up twice, right? 5x plus 3. And then what's left? So that would be 4x minus 1.